Streamer man is late. Welcome everyone to the post race live stream from the 2022 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Hello everyone. Thank you all for coming. Welcome. How we doing? Mark, Michael, Yusuf, Ewan, JM, Shanky, TS Richard, Bart, Max, Shanky, Jamie, Kaheen, Apex, Arjan, Foxy, Tommo, Jamie, Reva, Gunter, Christian, Pippo, Reese, mate. Thank you for the $1.99. What time do you call this? Why are you barking, Minton? Weirdo. Don't worry, the background music's coming. What one should I put on today? Let's do this one. All right, let's get something. Get some background music going in the back. All right, it's a bit loud. Turn that down a bit. Don't want to blow your eardrums off, do I? That would be very nice of me. Right, is it going? Desktop audio. Are you picking up? Oh my, what the hell's going on? I don't think it's actually picking it up for some reason. Oh, there we go. Lovely. Boom. Right, can you hear that? You should be able to hear that. Welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming. I hope you like my my Japan football shirt. Original from, like, I don't know, I can't remember what year. 1998, I think. I'm not on mute. Thank you, Cosmo, as well, for joining Friends of Tommo. Lovely jubbly. Right. Quite a bit to unpack, isn't there? From an Azerbaijan Grand Prix that wasn't... I think we've got quite high expectations of Azerbaijan. It wasn't the greatest race in 2016 when it first hit the calendar, but since then it's been pretty dramatic. And I think by Azerbaijan standards, it wasn't a worldie. So let me know in the live chat what you think. Number out of 10. What are you saying? What are you saying? Talk to me, people. What do you think? What do you think it was out of 10? Because, again, because it's Azerbaijan, maybe expectations are a bit higher. We were kind of robbed of that fight at the front. You know what I mean? We were robbed of that fight at the front, which we would have seen if it wasn't for... Potentially we would have seen. Who knows for sure. But Ferrari strategy, pitting early. Charles Leclerc may have been able to win that race, put up a fight against the Red Bulls. Carlos Sainz might have been able to do something as well, but his race ended early. So, but it's not just about the cars at the front. There's cars everywhere. I do think that the broadcast, there was a few times when I saw the gap between drivers at like 0.2, 0.3 of a second, and the camera was just focusing on a random train of cars who all split by like 2-3 seconds. So I do think certain overtakes weren't covered as much as they could have been. But all in all, Tommo F1, or Tom Olive, as it says in the corner of the screen, I'm giving it a 5 because I think it was bang average, and for bang average, 5 is bang in the middle. So I'm saying bang average. I didn't find myself bored particularly watching the race, but I didn't find myself excited, gassed. There wasn't too much to get excited about. So I think that's fair. I think a 5's fair. Because as well, it's not like 5's a bad score. It's a middle score. Boom. There was some okay midfield action, but nothing to. This won't be remembered, will it? Really? It might be remembered for all the wrong reasons for Ferrari, maybe, you know. But then again, we're 8 races in to a 22 race season. it wasn't that long ago we were talking about Red Bull reliability potentially costing them a championship, and how quickly the turntables. You know what I mean? Yeah, DNFs were technical. There weren't any inter-driver shunts, which isn't a bad thing, but does that sometimes make it more exciting? Of course, if people crash into each other. Not that I necessarily want that, but it's part of racing, isn't it? So everyone kept it pretty clean. There were some mistakes out there, but yeah, I thought it was an okay race. It's one of them that, you know, if I hadn't been able to catch it live, well, to be fair, actually, I watched it. I had to stay off Twitter because I was about an hour and a half behind because I was on my stag do on Saturday, and then got back here at about, the race started at 12, didn't it? I got back here at about 1, and then I just needed to just lay on the bed for a bit because I did not feel good. I did not feel good. What's a stag do? Well, because I'm getting married, Shanky. So a stag do is the party you have with the lads before you get married. And I'm still covered in a lot of pen because I was blotto. I was gone by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then my mates all decided to write on me. So I'm still covered in pen. Someone wrote elbow on my elbow. I don't know what that says. Someone wrote Andy on my foot, which I thought was quite funny. Bachelor, is that what it's called? Bachelor party. Okay. Bachelor party to the Americans. Yeah, it's called a stag do. Bachelor party sounds so much more sophisticated, doesn't it? Who's going to a bachelor party? Stag do. But yeah, it was also one of them nights that I apparently we went to a bar in Shoreditch called Bar Kick, and apparently the manager recognised me, and he got me a shot. But that stage I can't remember. I've seen pictures and I'm like I wouldn't be able to pick that man out in a lineup. As far as I'm concerned, I've never met that man before in my life. But so yeah. But anyway, less of that. I did watch the race in full. As much as I was a bit behind, I did watch it in full. And yeah, 5 out of 10, I think is fair. In Germany, it's called, oh my, wow, Jungselen Abschleid. Jungselen Abschleid. No, Jungselen Abscheid. That's stag do in German, apparently. I thought I did quite a good job. Thank you, Elliot, for the 5, mate. Appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed your stag do. What do you reckon? Who do you reckon gets their maiden F1 win first, George or Carlos? I mean, surely Carlos. Surely. But then Russell's consistency, you know, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he only had 2 cars ahead of him, and it's not the first time he's been on the podium. So, no, actually, to be fair, that's quite a good question. Maybe it is George then. Because George's consistency is more likely to benefit. Sainz is more likely to win a race on pace, but George is more likely to kind of be fortuitous and kind of luck into a win. You know what I mean? Like, if there's an incident up front. So, that is actually a good question. Yeah, consistency is key. George's been killing it, hasn't he? But yeah, 5 out of 10 is what I'm giving it for a race rating, because the results were as follows. Max Verstappen won ahead of Sergio Perez, fastest lap. See, Sergio jumped shoal at the start, and I was excited because, to be honest, when Sergio went his P1, I was like, wow, like, I'm going to have fun with the title and a new thumbnail for my Checo Loves Baku video that I did last week. And I didn't jinx it because there were so many replies saying jinx. Look, he got a P2. Yes, he got quite comfortably beaten by Verstappen in the end, but I don't think I jinxed it. Stroll technically, he did 46 laps, but he didn't actually finish the race, so I'll just put next to his name. But yeah, so Red Bull 1-2, Georgie Boy P3, pretty much didn't see him all race. which isn't a bad thing for him because, you know, boring race the better if he can get on the podium. P4 Hamilton, drive from the... That was uncomfortable viewing, watching him get out of the car. Like, for real. There's a question around, like, you know, drivers have got to be able to get out of their car quick if they're in trouble. And, man, like, bless him. Lewis got absolutely battered by that Mercedes. Gasly P5, great result for Pierre. It's been a difficult season so far, but that's the Gasly we saw last year. You know, top 6 qualifying, top 6 finish, very good. Vettel P6, great result. Big turnaround for Aston Martin in the hands of Sebastian anyway. Alonso P7, got to be fairly happy with that. Both the McLarens getting into the points, and Esteban Ocon. Of course, you've got, you know, Magnussen, Joe, Leclerc, Sainz. A lot of people got into points that, you know, you got to think, what if Leclerc, Sainz don't have their technical issues? Zhou Guanyu was having a good race. K-Mag was having a good race near the points as well. So a lot of people benefited. I think the McLarens weren't very strong this weekend. They were fortunate to get into the points. But they did. First you got to finish, right? That's the old saying, isn't it? Perez fastest lap falls. I'll talk more about it because I think as well, like, from my understanding, they did have different setups. I think, yeah, Perez is Mr. Tyre Management, but he wasn't able to make those tyres work as well as Max was. Understanding that they had different setups, I'm inclined to think, because Perez and Max, there was nothing in it kind of all weekend, like through the practice sessions, through qualifying. So I've got to anticipate maybe it was a bit of a mistake on the setup from Sergio's side of the garage, because, you know, the gap between the two of them in the end was massive. So it's like 20 seconds, wasn't it? 25, something like that. So yeah, I'm not too. And don't get me wrong, I think Max is the better driver, of course. But yeah, I think that gap was bigger than it should have been, really. But, thank you, Marek, for the 100 CZK. How can we expect Ferrari to build a championship-winning car if it's being built by the geniuses who brought us masterpieces such as Fiat Multipla? Underrated motor, Marek. Come on. There's a reason we're still talking about it now, because it's iconic, right? So yeah, that kind of accounts for, yeah, the fact that, yeah, again, Sergio got fastest lap. Hard tyres were the tyres to be on, weren't they? Mediums just didn't have the pace. But I just think it was, you know, sometimes your setup goes some way, sometimes it doesn't, you know. Yeah, don't diss the multipler, man. Come on, get to know. For the 5 DNS Ferrari, and well, yeah. So I think Joe's wasn't a power unit related thing. I was watching a video from the race that they put out this morning, but I think K-Mag's was, obviously Leclerc's was, Sainz was hydraulic. Stroll, I'm not sure. I still don't know exactly why they retired him. They said they were getting some weird readings on the feedback in I don't know. I'm not an engineer. Look into it if you really care. At the end of the day, he had to retire the car, and he was running miles out the points anyway. So oscillations, that's the word. Some weird oscillations. We could say that about the Mercedes, because the car was going like that all day. Thank you, Secret Sloth, mate, for the $49. Some money to help pay for Lewis's medical bills after that painful ride. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to get that $4.99 to Lewis from me, but I appreciate the support, Sloth, mate. Thank you. And thank you, Zhang, mate. Appreciate it. For the 5 New Zealands. Big up New Zealand, mate. 2022 Checo versus Max becoming 2010 Vettel Webber. What will happen next? I think that... I still think, yeah, Max is going to have... You know, he's got the performance advantage over Checo, I think. You know, most of the tracks we're going to now are more typical racetracks. There's only 2 more street circuits. Canada, which is kind of a street circuit, but kind of a bit of a hybrid, really, because it's in a park. It's not like, you know, these roads are being used all the... It doesn't feel... When you watch Canada, it doesn't feel like a street circuit, really, does it? You know what I mean? Whereas, like, Singapore is a proper out-and-out street circuit. That I feel like with this porpoising, like, the fact that most of the tracks were going to, because the bumpy road surface at Baku, plus the longest straight in F1, meant that this was going to be, as far as I think, the worst track for porpoising all season. You know what I mean? So I like to think that we're in a better place going forward. But Mexico doesn't count as a street circuit, though, does it? Because I know it kind of goes through the baseball stadium, so it's not like Mexico's a weird one, isn't it? It kind of is. It isn't like a out and out race track, but it kind of is. I don't know. World Champion's going to be a shambles. Well, we'll see. So yeah, they are the results. They are how things finished for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So now, winners, losers, W's, L's. Thank you, Sard, for the 25 star. Max and Checo, Hamilton and Rosberg. I don't think Sergio is going to be as competitive relative to Max over the course of the season as Rosberg was to Hamilton, personally. And thank you, Billy, for the £2. Hamilton was riding a jackhammer all weekend. Yeah, not good. Not good. Right, let's talk winners and losers then. There's a lot of potentials here. There's a lot of... there's some honourable mentions that I've chucked in. But for me, these are my dubs and L's. Pierre Gasly takes driver W of the weekend, according to me. Honourable mentions as well for Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel. In there as well, got to mention like George Russell. Got to mention Lewis Hamilton for actually like surviving and actually moving up the field as well. But I'm saying Pierre Gasly. P6 in qualifying, P5 in the race. Great drive. If strategy-wise, if AlphaTauri had pitted him under VSC, because they risked it, he could have potentially held on for a P4 maybe. Ricciardo went up 4 as well. Yeah, but when it comes to moving up, yeah, he moved up 4, but also Leclerc and Sainz broke their cars. So, Gasly net kind of lost a position to Lewis, but he could have kept that if I think the strategy may have been different. But it's easy to say in hindsight. French bias, I know, right? Team W of the weekend, obviously it's Red Bull. Put Mercedes in there as well because, 3-4, ultimately the result they've got to be happy with. I don't think the car is a W at all because it is, hurting their drivers. But in terms of the result and in terms of George getting another podium, they deserve a shout. AlphaTauri as well, like Yuki Tsunoda was having a really good race. I was gutted for him, and then his rear wing decided to split in half. So what can you do? He was having a great race. This is what he's developing in the way that... because Yuki and Mick both had similarly troublesome rookie years, I would say. But Yuki's made a clear step forward. Mick probably hasn't. You know what I mean? I think that's the difference, and I'm really chuffed for Yuki. I love Yuki as well. Big man. Driver of the weekend, I gave it to Lance Stroll. Binned it twice in qualifying. Was running miles behind. Didn't look like, Seb was able to move through the field. Lance was not. It wasn't his fault the car DNF'd in the end, but he was running out the points anyway. You look at the steps forward that Seb's made with that car. I think Stroll of the weekend is a fair shout. Schumacher, I've said as well. He was, Kev was running near the points. Schumacher was nowhere near. Don't know what happened to Schumi in qualifying. I actually don't know. So, but he was right at the back. And then Valtteri Bottas I put in there as well because out qualified by Zhou Guanyu. First time that's happened. And in race again, I think Joey overtook him. I think Joe was looking the quicker driver. And I think, it's probably, Valtteri was saying post-race, like, the setup was just terrible. But obviously he's the driver with the experience. He's got a degree of responsibility for that as well. So he's been very, very good this year, Valtteri. But Bottas, he's getting an honourable mention as well. Thank you, Mayak, by the way, for the £2. Do you think Daniel can salvage this season? He needed this weekend. Let's just say that, but we'll get more into that. This was welcomed. This definitely takes a bit of the heat off. You know what I mean? And then Team L of the weekend. I mean, it's just Ferrari, isn't it? There's just no point. There's just no point doing anything else. Thoughts on AlphaTauri not getting penalised for the win? Actually, I'm going to ask that question in the I'm going to do a palm. Should Tsunoda have been black flagged for the bodge job on his rear wing? So should Tsunoda have been black flagged, as in forced to come in and retire the car? So if you think he should have been black flagged, click yes. If you think he shouldn't, which is what happened, then click no. The thing is, so the tape, it wasn't actually gaffer tape, was it? Like, I know obviously it's funny to say, but it was like, it's like this silver. I can't remember what it's called. It's like, is it something begins with D? It's like a. I can't remember what it's called. But I remember like reading or hearing from someone. I can't remember who actually. That it's like used in a lot of like aeronautical applications. Yeah, it's not duct tape. There's something else. It's like an acronym. Everyone said duct tape. No, there's an acronym for it. I can't remember what it's called. It's not duct tape. That's what I mean. Wah. Duct tape. Brilliant. I don't know what it's called. Whatever. Doesn't matter. So most of you agree no. I don't really know. I know obviously like Paul de Resta on the comms was very anti them sending him back out. Yes, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I mean the fact that the FIA didn't, that they deemed they'd done a good enough job. It's one of them that it was fine, so it's easy to be like, oh yeah, it's fine. But then obviously, yeah, if that comes off, if that, then all of a sudden opens and it destabilizes the car and Yuki crashes into a wall, if the outcome's there, then it's much easier to say, well, yeah, that was too risky. But yeah, DNF tape. Oh, brilliant. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I just don't know, really. I wouldn't have wanted to make that call, to be honest. But there you go. Most of you think it was fine. So, but it would probably be different if he had binned it, with that being a problem. Thank you, John. That's AVFC. Second best team to wear claret and blue after West Ham. For joining friends of Tommo. I appreciate it. So yeah, there we go. So those are mine. Oh, actually, I just remembered I forgot to do something. Because, so obviously I like to ask you lot for your post-race winners and losers. I also like to put how many votes were cast. And I forgot to update that on the graphics. So I'm going to do that now before I show you some fake news. Actually, did I... Wait, did I do that last time? Okay. Interesting. How many votes were there? 1,309 votes. Well done, everyone. Very good. Not as many as usual, but I did forget to put the link on my YouTube community. So that's my L. That's my L of the weekend. Which, come on. You lot know not to expect too much from me, okay? You know I can, this production value is. Although I need to show you something as well. I've stolen this idea from James Alcott. If you know James, big up James. one of my favourite football content creators, in a space that's very, it used to be my forte, but in a space that's very packed with people. James does a lot to stand out. I'll show you it now, actually, look, because you can have main screen, yeah. I'm talking, and if I really want to emphasise a point, I bounce into myself and then out again, like in my video edits. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't know. Anyway. Right, your winners and losers. Over 1,309 votes. Driver of the weekend. Only 30% of the vote went to the winner, which was Sebastian Vettel, which shows that there was a reasonable spread. You know what I mean? Thank you, Elliot, by the way. James Allcott or Hugh Wizzy. So I didn't, to be honest, I last time I watched any Hugh Wizzy stuff was when he was on the kickoff still. But that was a long time ago, wasn't it? So, James, mate. James is killing it. I love him. I think he's fantastic. I'm not a secret Allcott slug. I'm out here. I'm out here with my kit, mate. Boom. 30% of the vote goes to Sebastian Vettel, which, you know what, I can understand. I couldn't give it to him. If he didn't have that spin, he's potentially getting a P5, P4 maybe even, which is huge. Because of that spin, not spin, he didn't, no, he went off, didn't he? He went straight and then he spun. Actually, to be fair, the spin was the best thing about it. You come on, like, Seb's got a bit of a spinny reputation, okay? But the actual pirouette was perfect. So the spin actually was a dub. Fair play. But he did lock up with, it's a shame because he got the move done as well. He got it done on Ocon. And then he just carried a little bit too much, locked. It was a shame. So as Vettel spins go, this was definitely one of the better ones. But that's the only reason I couldn't give it to him, because I think there was even more potential there. But still a fantastic drive. Verstappen, 22% of the vote. Not the best qualifying, but you can't argue with the race performance. Just, did what you needed to do. Didn't make any mistakes. Didn't get caught up in any shenanigans at the start and add the legs on Sergio. How much of that's set up? How much of that's just him doing a better job? Hard to say. But big up Max. Pierre Gasly, 18% of the vote. He was mine, but still got a good amount of representation. Then George Russell, 11%. I mean, it's getting to that stage where we just kind of expect that from George now. 8 races in. He's killing it. So good. So impressed. I was expectant that George would do a good job, but I didn't expect to do this good a job. I really didn't. Team Dog of the Weekend, 80% of the vote is Red Bull, obviously. 11% Mercedes, 6% Alfa Tauri. So Alfa Tauri get a shout out there. I mean, it's them three, isn't it? They're the three winning teams. You say maybe. I mean, yes, both Alpines got in the points. Yes, both McLarens got in the points, but particularly the McLarens, I felt were quite fortuitous to be there. I didn't think Ocon did a particularly good job. I thought Fernando did a good job. So fair. Good morning, Patrick from Kansas. Driver L of the weekend. Charles takes it again. Now, obviously, when I do the L of the weekend, this is the reason in mine I didn't put Charles at all. Now, obviously, he's probably lost out more than anyone in this race, but it wasn't his fault. He qualified on pole. So when I'm doing these, but look, I know it's open to interpretation because, it was outside of his control what happened. He drove a fantastic race. He couldn't have done too much more. Yes, he did get jumped by Perez at the start. That's actually fair. But it was an L. In terms of the outcome was an L. But through no real fault of his own. Lance Stroll, 22%. Latifi, 13%. Yet again, unable to be fair to Nicholas. Not that, I'll be honest, not that I think that he would have been able to have a good performance, but with his mechanic pushing his car back at the start and getting that 10-second stop go, that just destroyed any chance of, him potentially having a good race. Cheers, Cameron, for the £2. Do you think George could win a World Drivers' Championship without a race win? No. Max and Charles were way too competitive for that. No, I don't. But that would be quite the story, wouldn't it? And then Schumacher 9%. Again, another difficult one. And then Ferrari got 94% of team medal of the weekend. So, I mean, let's just leave them there. You know what I mean? Easy. So, what does that mean for the championship? Well, as you can see, after 8 of 22 rounds, I updated it. Yeah, see, look, it says 22, not 23 anymore. Max Verstappen is 21 points clear of teammate Sergio Perez, which is still a pretty small gap. You got to say, he's 13 points ahead of Charles. And then George is only 17 points behind Charles, which is crazy. That's the really mad one. And that shows that, Charles has got, is it 6 pole positions now? But that inability to convert, contrasting George, who has still done a really good job in qualifying, but obviously that car isn't able to get into that top 4 purely on race pace, on quali pace, sorry. But being able to recover so much in the race through just, driving really well, getting fortunate with some safety cars, fair, but putting himself in those positions to benefit at the end of the day. And he's only 17 points off Charles. It's crazy. Wasn't it? Yeah, that's the stat, isn't it? It's Max has won more races from Charles poles than Charles has this year. Is it this year or ever? I don't know. But look, obviously some of it's been Charles's fault. Imola, he spun. Potentially a better result there. This one's not his fault. Monaco wasn't his fault. He's been unfortunate. Yeah. Is it ever? Ever, man. That's crazy. When I saw that, I thought it was just this year, but that's ever. You think how many poles Charles got in 2019 as well? He was the pole king, wasn't he? He was the king of Poland. Robert Kubica. But yeah, Russell, 16 points ahead of Sainz. Sainz has been unlucky. He has been mad unlucky. But also he has bozoed it as well. He was unlucky. He got punted by Ricciardo in Imola, didn't he? He could have maybe won at Monaco if he didn't get stuck behind Latifi. Here he has a car break, but then also he has, gone playing in the sand too many times this year. Carlos Sainz, and then Lewis 62 points. I mean, it's 12 points today. He's still not what he's now 37 points behind George, which is a lot. But we've got 14 races to go, so we're a third of the way through the season, just over now. So there's still a lot to come. It's new regulations, an upgrade. Aston Martin, whether you think Red Bull have dropped the case, so there's clearly nothing to it. It seems like too much of a coincidence, but I think maybe it just was. Red Bull have dropped the case, and Aston Martin, in the hands of Sebastian Vettel, that car's gone from down there, thinking them and Williams toss up for the worst car at the start of the year, to now Vettel. If he doesn't have that off, he's looking at potentially a P5, maybe even a P4 on merit. That's huge, and I think that there is more to come from teams and upgrades and all that. I mean, we've got a lot of upgrades coming for Haas. There's a lot of talk of Silverstone for Mercedes. It's interesting. Thank you, Patrick, mate, for the $10. Very kind. Appreciate that, buddy. Who else is interested? Norris, 50 points. Good point so far for Lando. Only 15 for Ricciardo, but I think it's a momentum thing, isn't it? We'll talk more about the McLaren ding dong. I mean, that's going to be made you know full well that Drive to Survive will be like, oh, yes, get those boom mics over the McLaren boys. Let's manufacture some drama. Oh, brilliant. I love it. Yeah, but it's not a good race. Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, they're the standings. You can see them here, yeah? So now you know where everyone is. Right, let's talk about individual teams. Thank you, Martin Bennett, for the 79p. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you. Right. Williams is the first team that came up in the graphic, so we're going to talk about Williams first. Started from the bottom, now we're here. So, yeah, Latifi, hard to be too... In some ways, it's hard to be too critical. Obviously, the 10-second stop-go would have cost him about, 32 seconds? 30 to 35? In that kind of range, right? And he was miles off. Yeah, the gap between him and the next slowest, which was Schumacher, was like 50 seconds by the end, wasn't it? And the fact that Alex was able to... Look, Alex... Yes, he finished P12, but again, look at the DNFs. That's the wrong graphic. Look at the DNFs. So Sainz finished ahead of Albon, obviously. Leclerc does. Joe does. Magnussen does. Stroll... Was Stroll behind Alex when he retired? I can't actually remember. But either way, at least Alex was, semi-competitive. So it's not much. He had an okay race. He pitted, didn't he? Alex pitted just before that VSC, didn't he? The second time. So if he'd waited like 2 more laps, he would have been able to get a better pit stop and maybe jump up a bit more. I also listened because in qualifying, have you heard Alex having a pop at Fernando? Because when Fernando in qualifying locks up at turn 15 and goes straight on, and Alex is like, this man has to be punished. He's been driving slow. He done that on purpose. That was actually funny. I mean, look, listen, Alex, Fernando plays these games, man. Like, this is what he does. He knows what he's doing. He's switched on. And you know what? As much as, okay, fair enough, Alex is annoyed. It's the dark arts. You got to say, if this is Harry Potter, then Fernando's, defense against the dark arts teacher, isn't he? Surely. Yeah, I did an interview after as well. I haven't actually seen that. Alonso did lock up, and Alex was like, he so did that on purpose. But yeah. Alex thinks he could have got out of Q1. It's always going to be difficult for him in that Williams, because I think now with these Aston Martin improvements, there is no sugarcoating it. Williams is now confirmed, and it's been pretty much confirmed for most of the year that it is the worst car, which is a shame. For sure, it would be nice. Obviously, I would love to see Alex a bit more competitive, but look, he's already got, he's got a P9, a P10, a P11, and a P12 now. So 8 races, 4 of those being very good results, 2 in the points, 2 just outside. I'm happy with that. Yeah, it will Snape his defense against the dark arts teacher, isn't he? But yeah, so it's another weekend where, and what Albon dunked. Let me get the old qualifying graphic. It was 6-7 tenths, wasn't it? On Latifi, between Albon and Latifi, I think it was. Hang on, let me double check. Qualifying results. So Latifi did a 1:45.3 and Alex did a 1:44.7. So yeah, about 6 to 7 tenths. Yeah, close to 7 tenths actually. So yeah, big gap between the teammates once again. Another, Latifi's not exactly doing much to dispel the rumours around his future. sadly. But there you go. Sorry. Can I just... Bram, do you really believe that? I just want to... Hamilton, a crybaby, he was like crying and making a whole scene when coming out of the car. Unlike Russell, the better and more manly... I'm sorry. Bram, look, you're entitled to your opinion, mate, but that's the biggest load of crap I've ever read in my life. But it did make me laugh. So, well done. The more manly driver. I'm sorry, right? When I think of manly F1 drivers, I've got to be honest, George isn't the first one who comes to mind with his beautiful eyelashes. Oh, that's funny. That is actually funny. Anyway. Thank you, Sedan, for the 50 rupees. Latifi is 21 in standings in a grid of 20 drivers. I know, he still is as well, isn't he? Because Nico Hulkenberg's best finishing position was higher than... who's the manliest F1 driver? Go on. If we're gonna go get into all toxic masculinity, who's the... I think surely the when you think of like typical traditional manliness, so like it's probably Alonso, isn't it? Magnussen maybe. I'd probably say Alonso on this current grid. Where is Mansell? Mansell's not in the sport anymore. Just because Mansell had a moustache. It's probably Alonso, isn't it? But yeah, listen. Each to their own, I guess, eh? What a weird conversation to be having. But anyway, toxic masculinity to one side. Let's now talk about Haas. Another, in the same way that Latifi's performances haven't, we've not seen enough to dispel the rumours. Schumacher, it's another poor weekend. He wasn't there in qualifying at all. And in the race, he wasn't able to make any progress. You look at how K-Mag was doing. Listen, look, obviously K-Mag being called back. I do think that K-Mag is underrated. And I think that is hurting Schumacher even more. Yes, K-Mag was away from for a year, but he was still racing outside. He was doing IMSA, he was doing other things, and he went back to a team that he already knew. They already knew his driving style, how to get the best out of him. Because I think K-Mag, broadly speaking, especially towards the start of their relationship with K-Mag and Haas, I think he did a really good job back when Haas were like a proper competitive midfield team. So yeah, I think that that's a factor. I honestly think like qualifying pace, I think, because if you take away this weekend, in the first 7 races, I think the gap's been about 0.3. I'm pretty sure I saw a graph that said about 0.3, and it looked legit. So yeah, I think that it's one of them that I don't think I think Mick optimum pace, it's the crashing and it's the lack of delivery. He's still not got a point. And that's not good enough. He's had opportunities and he squandered them, and he was nowhere near this weekend. I think, gone are the days of the science potentially being concerned about Schumacher coming for his seat, because Schumacher hasn't shown enough, as far as I'm concerned. And he needs to... I do think there is the potential there still. I still have faith, because I think we have seen some decent pace from him. There's been a few quali sessions where he's only been like a 10th behind K-Mag. So I think there is... It's raw, it's still there. But again, I think that rookie season kind of... Because it wasn't a... I've said this so many times. Like, he didn't get the value from his rookie season that someone like Zhou Guanyu's getting from his now. Because he didn't have a teammate with experience. And it's showing. And he was fighting at the back with no one apart from his teammate. So yeah, I just... I'm not sitting here making excuses for Mick. I think there is context to it. But again, when you look at how Yuki Tsunoda's pushed on, and Mick hasn't. That's the concern, isn't it? That's the concern. Hello, Scotty boy. Driver 61. Mr. Content at the minute. Absolutely killing it, buddy. Killing it. I need to get a production team like you. That's what I need. But yeah. Callum mentioned you were getting some heat on Twitter for a perfectly legit point. Never. No, never. What are you talking about? It's all part of the game, isn't it? It's all good fun. But yeah, so Mick's not doing enough. Unfortunate for K-Mag. I think points were definitely on the cards, I think, for K-Mag. He was struggling at the start, but he was on the medium, I think, starting, wasn't he? Because I know Albon got past him. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then Albon just fell back. But anyway. Yeah, exactly. We're all just biased. Mate. Yeah, that's Haas. Right, who next? Aston Martin McCutcheon. Look, obviously, I think big credit to Aston Martin for seemingly so quickly getting up to speed with this new side pod design. I think the fact that they've clearly got up to speed so quickly and Seb's been able to deliver this result, and he was Seb points last week in Monaco? I actually can't remember. I think he was, wasn't he? I think he got a point in Monaco. Yeah, the fact that they've been able to pull performance from that car so quickly tells me that, yeah, this probably was there. Yeah, it was P10. There you go. That this has been a design that they've had in the works for a while, and they didn't just rob it off of Red Bull. They probably had a very similar design, and then they saw the Red Bull and was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, doing that, and then make these little adaptations to make it more like the Red Bull, because clearly that was working. So I think this kind of fully now, this performance from Aston, I think that's the way I interpret it. I think that vindicates Aston Martin from any kind of wrongdoing, on top of Red Bull dropping the claims. So it was fun to imagine some kind of espionage, but alas, I don't think that was true. So yeah, I mean, look, Seb's got they seem to be like, it's funny how quickly things change, isn't it? Start of the season, down in the dumps, this new philosophy. Seb's been 2 point scoring finishes in a row in, again, a car that at the start of the year was arguably joint with Williams as the worst. Unfortunately, Lance isn't, because it's no surprise that it's not controversial to say that Lance Stroll isn't at the level of Sebastian Vettel. Of course not. And it's nice seeing that they are extracting, and Seb does seem to be comfortable, does seem to be pretty happy with the direction of this car. Pulled out a fantastic result, and it's a good sign for the future. You've got to wonder, at what point does having Lance in that seat over another driver who would be better, because I don't think that's controversial to say that Stroll isn't, Do I think he's a competent F1 driver? Do I think he's better than someone like Latifi? Yes, but he's not setting the world alight, is he? Like if there was an opportunity to get Gasly and Vettel at Aston Martin, for example, objectively, that would be sick. But obviously with Lawrence in charge, that seems unlikely. And Lawrence is in it for the long term, but then that also means his son is in it for the long term. Now, can you build a championship winning car with only one teammate delivering? You can argue yes. There were certain seasons in Seb's dominance at Red Bull where Webber was nowhere near. So potentially. But I think it's more difficult when you've got such a discrepancy. Because you can have a number one, number two driver, but I think the gap. I think the gap between Seb and Lance is big. I don't think it's a small gap. I think it's a bigger gap than we had between Vettel and Webber. Because Vettel was able to Webber was able to genuinely challenge Vettel. Whereas the gulf between, so you do wonder long term. I think for now, for the moment, it's okay. But again, I do question. I think it's difficult for Lawrence because of course he wants to support his son. I get it, right? Lance is a competent F1 driver. I don't think he's anything special, but he's a competent F1 driver. And you want him to succeed. You want him to do well. You want to support him in as best you can. He's still very young. We forget how young Lance is now. What, is 23? Is he 23? Lance Stroll is 23. Yes, he is 23. So is there room for him to grow and develop more? Of course. But is his ceiling anywhere near the likes of, a Verstappen, a Leclerc, a Norris, a Russell, even, a Gasly, an Ocon? I don't think it is. I don't. So yeah, it's good for now. Like in terms of Aston Martin, Seb, things seem to be working. Again, it's funny how quickly things can change, but again, it's new regulation, so hopefully, because I used to nothing Lance Stroll. I used to have no opinion on him, but actually, the more I see of him, he's quite raw, he's quite real, he's quite funny. I'd like to see him turn it around. I'd like to see him do well. But there you go. Right, next team. Let's talk about Alpine. Yes, I said it earlier. I've got to be honest, because I'm a big fan of Esteban Ocon, and last year I predicted he'd outscore Fernando Alonso. I was wrong. This year I did it again, and so far. But let's be honest. Over the course of this year, I think last season was very, very close between the two of them. But I think this year, Fernando has definitely been driving at a higher level than Esteban, even though Ocon has brought all the points in. Because Fernando's been unlucky, and I do think I set high expectations. I have high expectations of Esteban, and I've been a bit disappointed. I'll be honest. This video is recorded, guys. Called it so, yeah. Ross, thank you for the $2. Did I see the AMSU report exposing Toto lying? No, I did not. Any more suggestions? Ocon hasn't delivered the performances that I think he's capable of. He's got a long-term contract. I don't see him leaving that team. The thing is, Fernando knows that Piastri is going to be in that seat eventually. Because if Alpine don't get him in that seat, and when I say that seat, I mean the Alpine, then they're going to lose him. And I think long-term, and at the end of the day, right, it doesn't matter who it is. And I know Fernando's right to say that, it shouldn't be about age. Yeah. But with Oscar Piastri, who's 20, and won back-to-back junior formulas, the potential, looking at who the other drivers who've done that, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton did that as well, didn't he? Like, for them to potentially lose Oscar, to keep a Fernando Alonso, who is, yes, he is outperforming Ocon at the minute, granted. But realistically, we're going to get 2. I mean, to be fair, Fernando's he's a freak of nature, man. But he is very much, when you look at other drivers who have left the sport, come back, who have tried to race into their 40s, Fernando Alonso's like the Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo of F1. A lot of drivers, a lot of football players, they get to their mid-30s and they start to fall off. And Ronaldo is just somehow, because he's just this absolute biological weapon. I prefer Messi. But for like, you know what I mean? I think that's and I think it's such a, even Schumacher wasn't able to come back and be anywhere near his levels that he was when he left. Zlatan, maybe as Zlatan as well. It's true. The only difference is them two are very tall. Alonso is very short. But, thank you, Alberto, for the $4.99. Mexican Minister of Defense, Chucky Leclerc. Nah, Charles been unlucky. So, the race reported Piastri will be at Williams by end of month. I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. So yeah, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, look, as much as Fernando is outperforming Ocon, I do think with the potential of losing Piastri, it depends, right? If Alpine can get Piastri a seat at another team and retain his contract, so whether that's a Williams, if they could do that, I think that's Alpine's optimum, right? Because then they keep Piastri in their thing. They keep that. They've got that contract there. They keep him as their driver long term. He gets a year in F1 at a lower team, probably. Say it is a Williams at the bottom, so he can work on his craft. They keep Fernando, who's smashing it, and Ocon, who's getting more and more experience. I still think Ocon's got more to show, and then that helps them keep developing this car. This gives Fernando another year where he's clearly motivated and happy. That's the ideal solution. Thing is, I don't know how realistic it is for Oscar Piastri or for any team to take on Oscar knowing that they're going to lose him after a year. Because it's almost like if Williams did take him, it's almost like they're doing Alpine's homework for them. Like, sure, yeah, Williams might get a good year out of him, but will he be switching it on? He probably need a bit of time to acclimatise and get accustomed to that Williams car, which is different to the Alpine. He's driven the Alpine. He knows how that Alpine is. He's going to get practice run-outs this year for sure. So yeah, that the optimum is to keep Alonso. The optimum's to keep Alonso in the seat, keep Ocon in the seat, and keep Piastri retained, but in an F1 seat. But I don't know how. I don't think that's realistic. Personally, I don't think that's likely. And I think if Alpine, if it's very much like, right, you either have to get Oscar in that seat, or you lose him to because it's a contract, mate. Contract's going to be bought out. Red Bull could swipe in and buy Piastri out of his contracts and stick him in AlphaTauri. If Gasly leaves, they could do that. Although that would be a bit of a middle finger to all of the Red Bull juniors who are... Because Vips bottled it again. Vips reminds me of Maldonado. Because Maldonado was rapid on his day. But he had so many shunts. And Vips has got unlucky for sure. But also he has bottled it himself. He spun from a good position in Catalunya. He had the crash in Baku. Yeah, I mean, because I think Maldonado's absolute pace in like a dream scenario was really... He won a race. He won a race in Formula 1. But you can't keep making those mistakes, Yuri. You can't, man. I was gutted for him. He was absolutely distraught, and I can completely understand why. Crashing him as well from pole as well, yeah. Look, call it slander all you like. I like the kids. I want him to do well. I think he was great in Super Formula as well. Like, he was phenomenal over there. But yeah, it's not good especially when Dennis Hauger's switching it on now, who was my early prediction to do really well. He's getting his groove on now. Although Logan Sargent, shout out Logan, mate. Best rookie so far this year. Boom. Right, Alpine. Anything more to say on Alpine? Not really. Ocon slightly under-delivered. Fernando, very good. Difficult decisions to make. Right. AlphaTauri, yeah. I mean, again, I think Pierre Gasly needed this weekend. It's not been a great start to the year, all in all. Been quite a bit out of his control. He's not been quite as switched on. I think, obviously, relative to Luki Tsunoda, Who the fuck is that? Relative to Yuki last year, he battered him. So I think, I think going into this year, it is closer because Yuki's taken a big step up. And yeah, I think Yuki's really impressed me. Yuki Tsunoda, he's moving in a good positive direction. You know, he had a poor first season, but I think Gasly was driving so well that really amplified Yuki's struggles. And then this year, he's way closer, 100%. And look, I think with the contract extension for Sergio at Red Bull, which will take him to the end of 2024, so he'll be 34, 35 then, Sergio. You know, give Yuki that same amount of time. You know, give him this year, give him next year, give him 2024 at AlphaTauri. If he keeps going on this same trajectory, you've got to think that maybe a Perez replacement, if Yuki Tsunoda is showing enough, because he's very young, to maybe come in and you know, replace Checo as a long-term replacement, you know what I mean? Because again, when you've got how old? So Yuki is 21, isn't he? Yuki Tsunoda. Oh, Yuki 22. Okay, he's 22, and so, yeah, it's 10 years younger than Sergio. So yeah, I think that's probably what Red Bull are hoping for, I would say, because I can't imagine that's going to be, you know, Gasly's going to stick around for that long. I don't think, with his ambition, I don't think that's the right choice. But no, Gasly's not bound to AlphaTauri. I mean, look, again, contracts are contracts, but you know, no one's bound to anything. You know what I mean? I know drivers have contracts, but I personally, I don't really pay too much attention to the contract. Daniel's got a contract for next year, but that's not stopped us talking about it. But yeah, all in all, I think, you know, AlphaTauri, again, they've under-delivered relative to my expectations this year in terms of the car, but great result at Baku. Maybe it was a track-specific thing, maybe not. I guess we'll see. But I've been going for over an hour now, bruv. I waffle so much. But you choose to consume it, so thank you. Don't forget, like the stream. Go on. I'll take a little water break. Imagine sat in your house, alone, talking to nobody, because there's no one actually there. There's just a camera. And then loads of you sat on your laptops, having a poo on your phone, watching me. It's weird, isn't it? Thank you, Jamie, for the $2 mate. Piastri to Mercedes. Well, look, I guess obviously there is Lewis will retire eventually. Who replaces him? Does Lewis do a Rosberg and just out of nowhere be like, see you later. Cheers, everyone. Thank you. It's been fun. Bye. Yeah, exactly. You are nobodies. You're nobodies. Thank you, Vance, as well, for the $2 New Zealand Roonies. Right. That's AlphaTauri done. Next, let's talk about McLaren. Oh, here we go. Drama. Oh, dear. I do make myself cringe sometimes, don't I? There was a good shout. Well, how many of you were here? There are 2,700 of you here. So there's a good chance one of you's having a poo. That's all I'm saying. Right. Okay. So, I actually wanna. How do we do this? Can anyone, right? Can someone transcribe exactly what? It will just be easy to ask one of you to do it. So what exactly did McLaren say to Daniel in response to Daniel being like, I want to get past Lando? It was something to do with Fernando Alonso, right? Did McLaren say that they were keeping Lando ahead to help him try and jump Fernando? Because surely that's not what they meant. Because when Lando did come out, he was nowhere near Fernando. They wanted to overcut Alonso, but he wasn't even close. Told him to hold up Alonso. Binley Mega Chippy. What the hell? I can't believe that is a thing. But he was nowhere near. So I think that's the problem. That's the problem I have with this. Thank you, Liam, by the way, for $7.99. Doesn't make it more sense to De Vries to Williams with Williams connection, preparing for Lewis retirement. Yeah, but De Vries is. I think the potential of Oscar Piastri is. De Vries hasn't driven in F1. Maybe it just depends on if Williams could actually snag Piastri away from Alpine, that would obviously that's the priority option, right? Thank you again, Patrick, for the $10. Appreciate it. Lando. So how slow was Lando's pit stop? Because I'm sure I remember looking at those timings and being like, Lando's come out a good. How many seconds was Lando behind Alonso when he came out? What, 4-second pit stop? 5. Okay, 5. But I mean, a lot of people were having 3.5-second pit stops. If it was 2 seconds slower, and he came out 5-6 seconds behind. Like, I don't know. I feel like that was a bit silly from McLaren. I think, Daniel was on the hard start, wasn't he? Look, either way, I think that McLaren should have let Daniel through at the start. Again, maybe it's easy to say in hindsight, but because he was nowhere near Fernando. Lando was nowhere near. So I think that was silly. They didn't let Ricciardo through because that did compromise his race at that pit stage anyway. Now, obviously, Daniel did benefit from pitting under VSC, so he was able to, if Daniel doesn't pit under VSC, then Lando's ahead of him, and then we're not even really necessarily discussing this because Lando was on the faster tyre at the end. It was just a bit of a silly call. Like maybe McLaren were like, oh, it's worth rolling the dice and seeing if we can get. But because he was nowhere near, it just seems like such a silly mistake. And yeah, maybe Lando's pit stop was like 2 seconds longer than normal, but the gap was much bigger than that. So that's kind of like my main issue. When it comes to then Lando coming through the field and getting onto the back of Daniel and wanting to overtake, to have a pop-up, do I think Lando would have been able to have a shot at Fernando? No. I don't think Lando would have caught Fernando. We will never know, but I don't think he would have. But do I begrudge Lando for wanting to have a go and wanting to be let past? No. But honestly, this is where I think that McLaren. So I think McLaren needs to be a bit more assertive, and in this instance, it's one of them where you need someone on that team wall who's going to hear Lando saying what he's saying and be like, Lando, I appreciate what you're saying, but we're holding position. It's we can do this if you get close enough, and then you can give him the position back. Just tell him to suck it up and deal with it. Because I don't begrudge Lando for wanting to be let past. I think most racing drivers would do the same. Again, earlier in the race, Daniel was like, "I've got more pace. Is this as fast as Lando can go?" Like, I get that the driver wants to be let through. So I don't blame Lando at all for wanting to be let past. But what I'm saying is I think McLaren, in that kind of situation, it's better. I think there needs to be more assertiveness there. And we saw that a bit, obviously, again, easy to say in hindsight, but Russia last year, where I felt like McLaren weren't assertive enough with Lando. And again, this isn't a specific Lando thing. I just think, to be fair, I think Daniel is exceptionally chilled out. Like, Daniel on the radio is Mr. Understood. He just says understood so many times. And you know, it must be a dream for his, compared to some of these other drivers who are effing and blinding and moaning constantly. Daniel's just like, understood. Brum brum. But yeah, I think the decisiveness from McLaren is needs looking into. Whether it's, I don't know, like, how often do we see Andreas Seidel like getting, like, almost, you know, when it's like James gets on the radio at Mercedes and then like, oh, Valtteri, it's James. You know what I mean? Like, that's when you know, oh, okay. Or like Toto will occasionally get on the radio and be like, I don't know, something. So yeah, I just, Lando wasn't even near to pass Alonso. Don't think it's actually, no, but it's easy. Yeah, but like, Lando doesn't have all the information. He thinks he's faster than his teammate, who's ahead of him, and knows that Alonso is up the road. You can't blame Lando for wanting to have a go. Like, I don't think his attitude was anything out of the ordinary or particularly off. Like, I just think it's a racing driver's attitude. So I'm not going to be too critical of Lando. My issue is more with McLaren's management of the situation. Yeah, maybe it's Seidel, because I love a bit of Andreas Seidel, and maybe there's certain instances where he needs to get on that radio and be like, get on with it, shut up your moaning, right, in his Cockney accent, which he clearly has. But all in all, it was nice to see Daniel be at a very similar pace to Lando. I think Lando probably had the edge on Daniel over the weekend. Obviously did beat him in qualifying, 2/10, but I think it's a welcome result. Again, when you look at the gaps between other teammates on the grid, like Schumacher, Magnussen, like Latifi, Albon. I mean, the gap between the problem is that Daniel needs to pick up a string of these close. He'll have like a one-off. This happened last year, I feel, as well. He'd have like one-off race where he's like really close to Lando, if not outperforms him. And then he'd have 2-3 rubbish ones, and then he'd be really close. And then he'd have 3-4 rubbish ones. And then, you know what I mean? Like, he just needs to pick up that consistency, But, and look, if you're going to say, something you say, oh, Lando's arrogant. They're Formula 1 drivers. These are arrogant people. Like, there's a mentality you need to get to this level, and arrogance, is a more helpful thing to have than it is a hindrance to get to F1. Yeah, that's the way I see it, anyway. But anyway, yeah, he needs to be Mr. Consistency. Exactly. Right, next, let's talk about Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo. Right. Again, difficult weekend for Valtteri. And as much as Zhou Guanyu wasn't able to finish the race, his car did break down. It must be incredibly frustrating for him. 3 races in a row where the car breaks on him for no fault of his own. It's interesting, isn't it, how like the rookies last year, so Mazepin, Schumacher, Tsunoda, were binning it into the wall, and that was robbing them of track time. With Zhou, he's not binning it. What a save at Monaco, by the way. Remember that? Almost binned it there, to be fair. But he's not binning it. It's the car breaking down itself. And I think with Valtteri to learn from, yes, it's frustrating for Zhou in the moment, but it's a really encouraging result. Because he has been quite a way off Bottas this year. Let's be honest, he has. You know, he hasn't been picking up the headline. He's been closer in race, I think, in quali. But then Bottas, we've always said, Valtteri's a very good qualifier. He would beat Lewis, you know, probably... How often was Valtteri beating Lewis in qualifying? One in every 3? Maybe one in every 4? Something like that. Against arguably the greatest to ever do it. Like, Valtteri's no mug in qualifying. So, the fact that Joe is being out-qualified by Bottas so consistently, I don't read too much into that. But in the races, I think it's a lot closer. And definitely Rookie of the Year. I mean, can't argue with that, Lennart. And, yeah, I just think that you know, because, of course, there was you know, we know why Joe is in that seat. You know, he didn't win Formula 2. He does bring money and he does bring eyeballs in that region of the world to that team, to Alfa Romeo, to Formula 1. I think there's, you know, we won't have a Chinese Grand Prix this year, but we should do next year, as long as they can get on top of their Rona problem. And it's one of them that I think Joey is showing enough. I do. I think the thing is with rookies, right? You've got I think the rookies last year. I remember when I did. You remember my video I did where it was like ranking every rookie season from the last. What did I do? Like 5 years, something like that, didn't I? So obviously I put Charles Leclerc best rookie season. You know, when he jumped into this car, this Alfa Romeo. And, you know, wiped the floor with Marcus Ericsson, who is now leading in IndyCar. So, good career arc from him. And, you know, you've got these exceptional rookie seasons. Ocon, exceptional rookie season, you know, almost matched Sergio Perez. It's just a shame they kept crashing into each other. You know, there's plenty of examples of very, very good rookie seasons. And there's examples of very, very bad ones. And I think Joe's is kind of... I think his has been kind of in the middle, I would say. Maybe slightly on the lower end. Slightly. But, you know, better rookie season so far anyway than I think we saw from Tsunoda last year, from Schumacher last year, from... It's hard to rate Schumacher's from last year, wasn't it? It's difficult to rate him because he was just... He was beating Mazepin. Wow, well done. So yeah, I think that I think Joey's doing a decent job, and yeah, not a great weekend from Valtteri, but I think as well it's one of them that sometimes you have to have these weekends to find out what is wrong with the car so that you can learn from those mistakes and not make them again. So I don't think Joe going to use anything particularly special, but I don't think he's a bozo either. You know what I mean? I think he's showing good. You know, because you got to remember, like, he didn't win F2, but he was competitive in. He was competitive last year, of course. He was competitive the year before that as well. When he was teammates with Callum Ilott. And there was a lot of talk of Callum deserving a seat, and I think if some things go slightly different, maybe Joey's, you know, getting a few more points and maybe challenging F2 a bit earlier. So yeah, I'm a fan of the kid. I'm a fan. I want him to do well. Thank you again, Patrick, mate. Jesus, Patrick's been generous today. I appreciate that, Patrick. Thank you. Right, Alfa Romeo. Not much more to say on them. Right, let's talk about... Who do we talk about next? Let's talk about Mercedes. Okay, so before we get any further, we'll briefly talk about porpoising, but my video for this week, my last video before I go away, is all about porpoising. So I just finished writing the script for it this morning before we went live. So I'm going to record that after this. So I'm going to save most of my takes on porpoising for that, okay? But at the end of the day, like, first of all, anyone who thinks that Lewis was like play acting and faking, come on, why are you so cynical? Why? Where does this cynicism come from? I just think it's such a, just because you don't like someone, you just like think the worst of them all the time. Like I just think it's sad. Look, that car absolutely battered him and George, and Daniel was battered afterwards. There were a few drivers talking about it. When you say he clearly was, Peter, what does clearly mean? Clear means like obvious. Like it just isn't. Like that's just not correct. We live in a society. Look, at the end of the day, right? Baku, Azerbaijan, longest straight on the calendar and street circuit, super bumpy. Porpoising was always going to be arguably the worst tracks. Arguably the worst tracks, right? Of any track to induce porpoising. You know what I mean? Because you've got the super long straight and you've got the bumpy surface, which is more likely to make the bottom of the car stall out and porpoise. You know what I mean? Like, come on. It's clear. Like, it's clear as day. Like, it's easy to sit home and be like, oh, he was faking it. Really? I hope you're not that skeptical of everyone in your life. But anyway, Edwards, you laughed when I predicted 20 Red Bull wins. Did I? Thank you for the 199. Maybe I did. Look, it's a long season still to go, Edward. All right, I wouldn't bank on 20 Red Bull wins. But we'll see. Thank you, Nej, as well for the €2. Hey, Citrus. Great minds, mate. Good to see you, pal. Merchants solve it themselves. Look, look. That is the debate at the minute with porpoising. You know, because I do think that there is, for sure, it's clearly a safety issue. Clearly, the drivers shouldn't have to put up with this. At the end of the day, right? F1 as a sport and the regulations in these cars. None of what we're doing with this sport is in nature, right? Every single word of the regulations and every single decision that's designing these cars is made by human beings. So we have the control to create these cars in a certain way, and then we have the control to change that. Now, do I think it is... If the only solution was to get rid of porpoising as quickly as possible, if the only solution was to have the FIA mandate a minimum ride height. So you had the choice between FIA minimum ride height, choice between that or keeping it the way it is. The thing is, right, I think the teams are choosing... The teams are choosing to lower the car as much as they can, and they are choosing to compromise the comfort / safety at this track because it was mad, right? These teams that are struggling with it most are choosing to do that. They don't have to. There's nothing in the regulations. There's nothing in the rules that mandates your car needs to porpoise, right? It's a byproduct of running your car lower than you should, because look, you're going to get a bit of up and down motion, right? But I think there's going to be you have to have some kind of tolerance. Like you watch the cars even last year, right? These cars move, they shake, there's going to be a degree of vertical, right? And over time, I think it's an engineering problem that will get solved. The safety question is a very fair question to make. The thing is, I don't think the only solution, because the solution of raising the ride heights would would then unfairly penalise the teams who have been able to find engineering solutions to this problem. Alfa Romeo, Alpine, Red Bull. Which, unfortunately, I think, where you've got Mercedes really struggling and you've got Red Bull not struggling so much and doing so well, unfortunately, the fact of all the stick I was getting yesterday, right? What this tells me is that the fact that it's those two teams who are on each side, right? So you've got Mercedes really struggling, performance-wise, struggling with porpoising. Red Bull not struggling with porpoising anywhere near as much and doing really well. What that's done is turned this into a partisan issue, where all of a sudden, if you're super stan on Lewis and Mercedes, you're on that side. And if you're super stan on Max, Red Bull, you're on that side. And then I get caught in the crossfire. So if the Mercedes and the Red Bull, trust me, okay, I can say this with zero doubt. If the Mercedes and the Red Bull were both very similar in terms of performance, both very similar in terms of the amount of porpoising, then this conversation, discussing it on Twitter, wouldn't be anywhere near as toxic as it has been. And maybe obviously because I've seen a lot of it, because I've been getting a lot of stick myself. So maybe it's heightened in my mind, but it's turned what I didn't even interpret as a partisan issue at all into now if I want to, because again, my suggestion, I've said it on Twitter already, my suggestion is mandate a maximum amount of vertical G-force that's allowed. So you literally do that, which you're literally saying, if your car porpoises too much, you will be punished. That is that's my solution. It's not about raising ride height necessarily. It's about whatever solution you can find. And because apparently Toto has said that raising the ride height doesn't alleviate, get rid of their porpoising. They're talking about suspension, talking about the new tyres, because the 18-inch rims, there's less because there's less tyre thickness, there's less damping. And I'm sure that's true to an extent. But in the same way that, of course, Christian Horner is going to say whatever solution he thinks will benefit his team most. And the Red Bull's not struggling with porpoising. It's, up there as joint quickest car. So you can understand why Christian doesn't want anything to change. But the fact that he's saying about it does unfairly hurt other teams, I agree. And yes, Christian is motivated by selfishness, as is any team principal. Toto, I don't begrudge Toto for wanting, because it feels like Mercedes want some kind of FIA intervention so that they're not having to solve the problem themselves, like other teams have. Let's say solve the problem, and they get the problem to an amount that can be regulated. And okay, maybe it's not just G, maybe it's frequency, whatever, right? But in terms of, because they've got sensors, right? They can tell it's been up like 6G at times. You know what I mean? It's been like those kind of forces, man. That's not fair. Like, you shouldn't be putting the drivers through that, right? I just think that's the fair. I think that's a solution that, because again, so let's say Toto Wolff is right, okay? Let's say he's correct. So let's say that raising the ride height won't necessarily get rid of porpoising. Well, okay, so all of a sudden then, what have you got? You've got, ow, oh, my foot almost cramped up then. You've got, so you raise the ride heights and then some cars are still porpoising. So you haven't solved the problem for everyone. So mandating a maximum amount of porpoising allowed, basically, which, you can test ride heights out in FP1, 2 and 3, as long as in the race you're not porpoising like crazy, then that is literally fixing the problem, not trying to change something that might affect it but might not. I think that's because what's the alternative, right? So the alternatives, you've got, again, raise the ride height, which might not fix the problem. Enforce a maximum amount of porpoising and make the teams, because it's not like every team is suffering with it equally. There is clearly a way in these regulations to design your car to not excessively porpoise. That's been proven by, Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Mercedes, Red Bull, to not excessively porpoise, right? And we're 8 races in. I feel like they're only going to get, because no one wants porpoising. It's not like, yes, the Ferrari porpoises. The Ferrari porpoises quite a bit. But they've got it to a stage where it's only really porpoising in areas of the tracks where they're not being hurt performance-wise. Whereas, if you're porpoising down a medium speed corner, I love the way I said I wouldn't talk about this. I'm talking about it. So you can't, the alternative that I'm seeing suggested is that, we have to change the suspension regulations and all that. Midway through a season in a budget cap, I don't think that's realistic. And it, again, comes down to the same, because that will affect other things. That will unfairly hurt the teams who have designed around it and have been able to take into account and just not be adversely affected by porpoising from a safety point of view. And I think there is a solution which is both safe and fair. That's the thing. Which I think is the, you're not allowed. Because all that's doing, right, is forcing. So if I don't know, that's top of my head, right? So say that's 3G is the maximum amount of vertical. Maybe over time you bring that down gradually, right? Say that's the maximum allowed. Well, all that's doing is forcing the teams to do what I think they should be doing anyway, which is taking responsibility for the safety of their driver and not Mercedes are choosing to, they could have, they would have sacrificed performance, but they're the ones who designed the car. And it's not again, other teams have been able to design around it and solve that engineering problem, and they haven't so far. So that's on them. Look, I just think honestly, it's one of the, fair enough. I'm not suggesting that solution would solve every. I'm sure that enforcing that would probably affect other things. I'm not suggesting that it's going to solve everything, but most things in life don't solve everything. But I'm just saying, this is not a partisan issue. This is a bipartisan issue. Don't take the cap off. It's not a Mercedes thing. It's not a Red Bull thing. It's a sport thing. Maybe I was naive, not anticipating to poke some honeybees. You know what I'm saying? But there you go. Thank you. I missed a few. I missed a few super chats, mate. I'm gonna have to take a break after this before I film my video, because I've been talking for a long time. An hour 30. Oh my god. I thought this was a boring race. Yeah, I've talked more than I've talked in any race. Thank you, Sissy, for the 100 rupees. Seb's P6 was one of the best races in the world from him. Love from India. It was a great race. One slight mistake, but otherwise fantastic. Thank you, Adam, as well, for the $5. Those people who are saying faking it have never even driven even a go-kart for a long period of time, even if your arms hang on your back and your sides take hammering. True, Adam. I haven't got the back for that anymore, mate. I'm too old. Thank you, Patrick, again. Love your waffling. I'm not here all day. I'm here until I finish talking about all the team. Thank you, Dylan, as well, for the $1 Aussie. And thank you, Robert, for joining Friends of Tommo. What exactly is Toto asking to change in the cars? So, again, Toto, as far as I've seen, Toto hasn't suggested what the resolution should be, as far as I've seen anyway. I know that I think the talk of FIA intervention has come more from George, because he's the head of the GPDA. So I don't think Toto's out and out come out and suggested a solution. He's just echoed the sentiment of, because, you know, look, it's a problem that the driver shouldn't be having to tolerate. I couldn't agree with that more. It's just, how do we get... No one likes porpoising. There are no fans of... Don't pretend to be a porpoise fan. No one likes porpoising. We can all agree on that. We all agree on the problem. It's just we disagree on the solution. But the fact we agree on the problem is quite refreshing, because we don't always agree on the problem. You know what I mean? It's just, who should the buck stop with in terms of fixing it? And what should the solution be? But yeah, there you go. Porpoise fan hit. Stop pretending to be porpoise fans. You weirdos, man. Weirdos. As for the performance, though, obviously, great run from George. Didn't really put a foot wrong all weekend. It's hard to not put him in the driver of the weekend conversation, because what did he do wrong? Given the equipment he's got, nothing. Lewis not as strong in qualifying. What was behind Gasly, wasn't he? Look, I know that, you know, Mercedes have said that, you know, Lewis is running extra sensors because they're desperately trying to understand this car. I can believe that. At the end of the day, when teams say things, you choose. Maybe they are saying that just to protect Lewis. I don't think that's the case. I do think that, and we have seen sensors on his car that we haven't seen on George's. To what extent that's making a difference, I don't know. Obviously, these things add weight. You know, if they're trying a bit more experimental setups on Lewis's car because of the amount of experience they have working with him. And of course, if you're going to be more experimental, you're going to be that with your more experienced driver, because you're going to learn more from that. I think that is a factor in the gap, because I think, you know, George has been, I mean, clearly, obviously in points, he's comfortably ahead of Lewis. It's like 37, wasn't it? But also in performances, I think George has, you know, I think it's been close. I think Lewis has been unlucky with safety cars and that, but I do think George has done a better job this year. How much of that is these added sensors and the extra weight that comes with that, and trialing different... I don't know. I can't tell you. But the way I feel about it is that it is very close. I don't think George is a mile clear of Lewis, but bloody hell, like, come on. It's Lewis Hamilton, and George is up there. Like, man, this... Honestly, like, I thought George was good, but I didn't think he was this good. Like, George is real. He's the real. We'll move on now. He's the real shebang. But he's not exposing Lewis. No. Just pirated Will Buxton, just rambling as all. I'm sorry. Like, I know I love a waffle, right? But I'm not Will Buxton. Come on. We are very different. We're very different people. But, you know, Will's a very successful man, so maybe. Thank you, Nej, as well, for the €2. Russ is used to shitboxes. That's the difference. Yeah, maybe that does play a role, I guess. Because George, you know, has had his experience at Williams trying to drag that team up. Maybe that does help. Because he seems very mature, very switched on. But there you go. Thank you again, Robert, for the $10. George has been an excellent driver given the circumstances. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. Like, as much whatever you think about Lewis, because I know when it comes to Lewis, there's a lot of, you know, toxicity around there, and people really like love him or really hate him. There's a lot more of that kind of, again, partisan fault when it comes to Lewis, which I think does cloud a lot of people's perception when you're looking at him. In my opinion, I think he does get an unfair stick for sure. Well, yeah, no question. Of course he does. I don't think Lewis has lost touch, but George is proving his worth. When Mercedes gets the car right, George will be scary. I agree. And look, I still think there's more to come from Lewis this year. 100%. There you go. Buxton sold his soul. Like, if DTS came calling, I'm selling. I'm selling, mate. I'm selling up. No, don't worry. I'll always be here on the channel, but, you know, mate, if Drive to Survive wanted to have me on, I'm too out. I'm too reckless. I'm not brand friendly enough. But then Squarespace love me, so there you go. Right, on to Ferrari. Atted, I'm sorry I missed your super chat. I will go back through after and make sure that we are almost done. I can't possibly. Oh no, yours is just here actually. Thank you, Atted, for the 5. Mercedes are just too egotistical to admit they've made a crap car which isn't fit for purpose. Let's be real. They're living off scraps this year. I mean, look, again, compared to the expectations they set of themselves and what we expect of them, they're miles off. They're still the 3rd quickest car, which I guess is a silver lining. And George, particularly George, but I think Lewis to an extent as well, they're kind of making the most of the opportunities and capitalising as much as they can. Again, George is only 17 points behind Charles. So if the big upgrade comes all of a sudden and it delivers as much as they think it might, then you never know. You never know. Thank you, Jamie, as well, for the 2 Aussie. Piastri to replace Latifi in Silverstone. Google it. I will. Thank you, Daniel, for the 2. I don't know why I paused there. Thank you, Daniel, for the 2 quid. The post race has been longer than the actual race. Yes! Content, Daniel. That's what this is. Swapan, thank you for the 40 rupees. Looking at Sector 3 performance, Alpine podium in Monza, maybe. Look, McLaren had the afterburners on at Monza last year, and they were 1-2, so maybe that would be lovely. That could be Fernando's chance to win again for the first time in however long. That would actually be sick. I'd love to see that. Right, yes, Ferrari. Okay, so I'm going to put a question. I'm going to put a poll. Will Ferrari strategy / reliability cost them the championship? So if you think Ferrari's... basically the question is, do you still think Charles will win the championship? If you do, then you click no. If you don't think Charles is going to win the championship, you click yes, basically. Because, okay, yes, Charles does have that spin in Imola. But other than that, it's been pretty... he hasn't done too much wrong, really. Like, yeah, there's been the odd mistake, but not to the extent of the Ferrari mistakes in terms of strategy and in terms of reliability, because, of course, it is their engine. You know, there's no blaming your supplier as a customer team. They are the supplier. They are Sam's supplier. 87% of you think Ferrari are going to step in. I would love to see the what the Italian headlines are this morning, because Ferrari's an institution, it's a religion, and this is their opportunity, especially with Mercedes struggling so much. You know, it's like a two-team fight. You know, maybe Ferrari won't win the championship this year, but then next year it might be a 3-4 team fight, which would be great for us as fans, but not great for Ferrari. And they're not maximising on the opportunities, and because I've said this, I've and through no dislike of Max Verstappen at all, but it would just be I'd love to see Charles win the championship. I think that would be great for him. I'd love to see it for him. Max has won one now, so seeing Charles win, I'd be happy with that. But these problems, and again, it's not just the powered Ferrari that's having these, these reliability issues. It's the customer teams as well, and it's they seem to be throwing it away. Look, there's still a lot of races to go. We're 8 in, 14 to go. Ferrari needs to get on top of this. because they clearly do have the car. They clearly do have the car. The performance is there. Mattia Binotto said it. He'd rather have a quick car that's unreliable than a slow car that's reliable, which I do agree with. Because I think as much as, yes, George's consistency and the reliability of that Mercedes has shown that you can stay up in a title fight. I think to win a title over 22 races, just being consistently on, P3 or on the edge isn't enough. You need the points discrepancy. You got to remember that. So P1's 25 points, P2's 18. That's 7 points difference. And then P3's 15, so that's only 3 points difference. The gap between P1 and P2 is what? So you get, is it 1 point P10, 2 P9, 3 P8. No. 1 P10, 2 P9, 4 P8, 6 P7. It's confused now. 8 P6. So just the difference between 1 and 2 is like being 7th and 8th. Yeah, I'm trying to say. Whatever. Binotto taking the Team at Marduk approach. Well, hopefully Ben's McLaren doesn't break down. Yeah, look. 2 hour Chinwag. We are getting close to 2 hours, aren't we? I'm standing up for this one as well. I don't know if you noticed that you see on my... See, I'm standing up. Standing down. Oh, I can make you go down as well. Hang on. Bye. Wow. I love this standing desk. It's great. I'm a bit too high now. There you go. No, it's not a. It's just a plain Japan shirt. I am waffling. That's what you're here for. I didn't let you go that low. Okay, I didn't let you go that low. Right. Yeah. So not good. I can't really comment too much. I mean, Leclerc was great in qualifying. Sainz not really. Sainz was kind of falling off the back of the top 3, maybe slightly, when he did eventually break down. You've got to wonder if he would have got on the podium at all. Maybe not. Carlos needs a clean weekend. We've been saying this for a while, but he needs to rebuild that confidence. And you look now, going into this year, I thought of Leclerc Sainz as probably the strongest driver pairing. But who do you think has been the strongest driver pairing this year, actually? Chat. 8 races in. Which driver pairing, could be from any team, which driver pairing has combined shown the most? Because I think Red Bull, obviously, Perez has been very impressive. Yeah, everyone's saying Red Bull. I think you got Red Bull. Yeah, it can't really be Mercedes because Lewis. I think Lewis's performances have been all right. I do. They've just not been. Yeah. Just thinking teams lower down the field. Alpha Tauri, been pretty good for both of them. Not great. Better for Tsunoda than for Pierre, I'd say. Yeah, it probably is Red Bull, isn't it? But yeah, I think based off last year, I think saying Carlos Leclerc Sainz probably was based off last year, but there you go. Thank you H Habits, sorry, for the $5. Checo Verstappen by far their second 1-2. Both drivers have at least one ring. It's true. Like what was it? That win, that 1-2 that they got earlier this year was their first 1-2 for so long, and now they're just racking them up now. So. Thank you again, Robert, for the 10. Ferrari struggling with reliability, but who's to say Red Bull won't have any more issues as well? Seems that they're taking turns with DNFs. It's a good point, Rob. It's a good point. These things can change quickly. But the more we get into the season, the more races we put behind us, the fewer opportunities there are to overcome bad. Like, if you're going to have reliability problems, have them at the start of the year, which is what Red Bull have done, and then recover from there. You know what I mean? But... At 2,500, you still here. Thank you, everyone. You weirdos. Best pair easily Latifi Albon. Lol. Very good. Don't worry, I'll get to any missed super chats. I promise. Oh, I need to restart my playlist as well. This is the classic. Because I've been waffling for that long. I'll go for any supers at the end. But thank you, everyone. I've been enjoying it. I like doing these standing up. I know I move a bit, and I'll show you Minton at the end. Actually, no, I think he's in bed. Of course, he's in bed. Lazy boy. Right, last team to talk about is Red Bull. I've already kind of said, like, they did have a different setup. How much of that accounted for the big gap between Verstappen and Sergio at the end, I don't know. But at the end of the day, another great day in the office for Red Bull. Got to be happy with that. And yeah, I mean, look, it's looking ominous. That's all I'll say. It is looking ominous because I do think, I've said this many a time. But Max was miles quicker than Sergio anyway. Oh yeah, I know there was this conversation of, did Checo let Max past? But Max was so much quicker. I don't think he needed to. Like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like if your teammates maybe slightly, like, it's a bit touch and go. Like, Bahrain 2016 with the Mercedes. Like Nico and Lewis battling. Like, they were clearly close. They were able to pass and then re-overtake, blah, blah, blah. All right. In that instance, you could question... But I don't think it was necessary because Max was so much quicker. Sergio said it himself after, he literally said, Max deserved the win. He was quicker than me today. So, I don't think there's much to complain about that personally. But there you go. Right. I think we're done. I'm going to have a rest. And then I'm going to film my video. Quickly, before I go, I will... Where's the old super chats that I missed? Super dupers, right. So... Oh, Rob again. If you could put any two drivers in any two cars to make a dream team, who would it be? Well, obviously my dream team would include Alex Albon. Obviously. Who would be a good teammate to Albon? Who would be a good teammate to Albon? You know what? Albon, Ricciardo. I know Danny's having a tough time at the minute, but I think that would be cracking. That would be a cracking team. I'd love that. And remember, this is my... Do I think that would be the best driver pairing? No, but that would be my dream driver pairing. Okay? I think it'd be my dream driver pairing. And Zoomed In Tommo thinks that as well. Just saying. Right. What other ones did I miss? Edward, thank you, mate. I found yours. Ferrari need to rebuild the whole team. Disaster. I wouldn't go that far. Look, these new engine regs, they need to get on top of their problems. I still think they will. Oh yeah, George and Albon would be good. Oh, imagine if that destroyed the friendship. That'd be sad. Yeah, I don't think I don't think there's need. You don't want to. What's the term? Throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't think there needs to be like an overreaction, but they need to get on top of it. But they have the capacity to do so. So I think they'll be all right. I think that is pretty... Oh, yeah. Piastri to replace... Someone was saying Piastri, Latifi. Piastri, Latifi, Silverstone. Was this just a meme? There are some articles. But... Oh, is it just Ralf Schumacher talking? Is that what this is based off? The baby was contaminated. It's a saying, isn't it? Throw the baby out of the bathwater. Wait, hang on. I just... Is this just Ralf Schumacher talking? Because that's like me saying, like, Oscar Piastri should replace someone, and then it like, making an official article. Yeah, whatever. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay, I'll say that again. Right. Let's see if I can get Minton. Oh, that second part of the whistle wasn't very good. Minton. Oh, don't make me come get you, man. He's so lazy. I should take him. I'll take him for a walk actually after this, and then I'll get back and do my video. What time is it in the UK? It's 5 to 2. So we're gonna get close to 2 hours here. Right, I'm gonna go get him. He can't hear you lot, all right? Minton. He's hiding on. Oh, here he is. He was hiding under the bed, so I couldn't reach him, and I was like, oh, I can't get him. That's why I'm so red. And then he just decided to follow me out. He wanted to come out on his own terms. Right, go on, sit on my shoulder. Right, he's been asleep definitely because he is so warm. Mate, you're so warm, mate. Right, here he is. The boss is back. Right. That was fun, everyone. Thank you all for coming. This will be... I will be able to do a pre-race stream for Canada on Thursday. Then obviously I'm flying on Saturday. So no quali stream, obviously. And then I will be at the Canadian Grand Prix on Sunday. And then I'll be getting married on Tuesday. So... exciting times. Look, he's literally falling asleep. Yeah. So, in terms of videos, honestly, like, obviously got my video coming out on porpoising this week, but other than that, I'm not, like, I don't want to be working when I'm away, you know what I mean? Because these videos do take a lot of work. But I'm taking my laptop, I'm taking my camera, so potentially expect some kind of stream-esque content, probably live streams more than anything else. If I can get a good internet connection, going to be in like LA for a few days, going to be in San Fran for a few days, going to be in Vancouver for a bit, going to be in Yosemite, getting about. So I'll be back. I'll be back middle of July. So yeah, it's going to be a bit off content-wise for the next month, but forgive me. So yeah, cheers all for coming. Minton says yawn because he's tired. You're literally so lazy. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to all of you who were super generous in the super chat. You really didn't have to, but I do appreciate it, and it keeps this one fed, doesn't it? Good boy. Right, cheers everyone, and if you're in Canada, keep an eye on Twitter, and I'll be doing some kind of meetup because I want to film a video with you lot out there. So yeah, cheers everyone. Goodbye. Minton, stop moving. Bye-bye. I need to eat some food as well. I'm starving. Bye.